Welcome to the Lean Out Your Business podcast, a show dedicated to helping entrepreneurs accelerate business growth and simplify success. I'm your host, Krista Grasso, and I've been working with businesses for more than 2 decades to help them lean out and optimize what's working while eliminating anything that's not adding value. So if you are ready to get more time back in your day, more profit in your business, and to do business differently, growing and scaling on your terms, let's dive into today's episode. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Lean Out Your Business podcast. Today, I am so excited to introduce Farnan to the episode. She is someone who I had the pleasure of spending a week with on Necker Island a little over a year ago, and really enjoyed getting to know her, and her work is pretty phenomenal. So I'm excited for her to tell you a little bit about it and how you can leverage it in your business today. But let me tell you a little bit about her, and then we're going to dive into all the good stuff, starting with her favorite takeaways from Necker Island. But for over 20 years, Dom has been a fearless leader in high growth settings, blending entrepreneurship and advocacy in each of her roles. She brings radical change to the talent industry through the application of mindfulness, generosity of spirit, and a sense of compassion that values relationship building. She's the founder of .Connect, which is a conscious connection agency that's known for building outstanding teams and culture. And she is the author of Now Here, A Journey from Toxic Boss to Conscious Connector. So today we're going to be diving into what conscious leadership is, how we can all be thinking about it and leveraging it in our business. But before we dive in, Dom, I can't wait to hear. For you, what was some of the magic or the takeaways from the Necker experience and how that's kind of impacted things for you since we had that journey?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Hi, Krista. I will say for me, I've had the honor of going to Necker 2 times. So I went early, like pre-COVID, I think it was 2019 for my first time. And then I went again last year with our group. And they were very different experiences. So when I went in 2019, I was not yet on my journey to conscious leadership. So I was pretty closed off and disconnected from myself, very ego driven, very much external validation was important to me as I continued to climb my career ladder. And so going into Necker that time, I feel I was probably a bit closed off and, wasn't really trying to make and create relationships with people there. And I was very much just in my own world. Second time around, when we went last year, I was fortunate enough to be able to bring my COO with me at the time. And so that was a really beautiful experience for both of us to be able to connect on a deeper level. It was very expansive. Going to a place like Necker, you just immediately feel expansive and, like limitless almost being in that place. I'll also just say my experience of Sir Richard Branson the first time versus last year was very different. I think he was a lot more warm with our group when we went and available and talkative and engaging and almost like humbled. I think COVID, like he talked about, really put a lot of things into perspective in his businesses because he was impacted just like most of us were in the world. So it was interesting to kind of hear him from that vantage point, not from like the billionaire that we all have in our mind idea of him, but from a very human place. So I felt like that was, pretty beautiful to be around that level of his energy. I also enjoyed the conversation with Gabby Bernstein, who was there, and what she was bringing to the table, and then just being able to spend that quality time with my COO was amazing, and meeting everybody else. It wasn't like any of the big moments, as Emma would say. It's in the micro moments. It's in those walks on the beach or those conversations. The first year that I went, Diana Nyad, the swimmer, was with us. And so we did a swim from Necker to one of the little islands. And It was only like a 20-minute thing, but it was so amazing to be with her when she swam from Cuba to Florida, however long ago in her 60s and broke the world record. And so things like that, those are my best memories, I would say.
I love that so much. I know I still think about Necker quite often, and not only was it just such a great experience, but I feel so fortunate to have gotten to spend time with such amazing people and to gotten to build relationships with such amazing people, which is what brought you onto the show, which I'm super excited about, and getting to dive into your brilliance, which I know you focus a lot on conscious leadership. So can you tell us a little bit about that and how you define it and why you feel it's so important?
Yeah, I'll say, for me, conscious leadership means that you take responsibility as a human being for the circumstances within your life. So, your spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical well being, first and foremost. And, you make that decision. So, when it was 2020 and I feel like I had my pivotal moment or meltdown or whatever it is that I talk about in my book, my beginning of my dark night of the soul, it was at that point where I realized, no one's coming to save me. And so if I don't want to feel how I'm feeling, which was pretty low and dark and depressed anymore, then it's on me to do something different and make a move and take responsibility. And it was scary because I didn't really know what to do or how to do it or what my next step was. I just heard this voice that was very overpowering from within me that was like the depths of my soul. Like, yo, you got to do something now because this isn't good. And you know it and I know it. And we both had to make a decision at that point. My soul essence and my ego were kind of battling each other a little bit. And so, yeah, I believe that, conscious leadership is really about first and foremost taking responsibility. And then as that evolves, really becoming the type of leader that when you look at yourself in the mirror, you're proud of who you see. So I often joke that if you were to work with me, the first thing I would send you in your swag box is going to be a mirror, because it's not about all the other people that aren't working and this isn't working and that isn't working. It's about, let's take a look in the mirror first, and we're going to agree that we're going to go deep there within you, and then see what comes of that and the ripple effect that you can create from doing that for yourself.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful, and I'm curious, what's people's reaction to that? Are they like, "I just wanna talk about what's wrong with everyone else," or do they really
Yeah.
embrace it?
Um, I think it's a bit of both. I think it's rattling for some people. I think, some people are not ready for it. I brought conscious leadership principles into my business, and I'll tell you that I had at one time over 100 people on my team. About 65 were aligned and into it and ready to step forward in their lives as leaders. And others were like, nah, that's too hard. Don't want to do that. Don't care. I want to collect my paycheck and I'll be on my way. And so I believe it's possible for everyone, but you have to want it for yourself and you have to make that decision, and be open to seeing how things unfold from there.
Yeah, it's so powerful. I really love that. And when we look to the future, right, the current state of the world, where we see things going, do you feel that this actually increases in importance as we move forward?
100%. The future of work is what we create it to be. So I was just talking to Alana Robertson, who I met on Necker in 2019, and her and I were so philosophically aligned. And why is everyone waiting for someone to tell us a playbook of the future of work? Like, no, no waiting. Like, let's create it. Let's create the future that we want to see. And we know that the future is whole human being. So even though there's all this chatter about AI and this and that, like, yeah, that's great. AI is going to be a part of our future, 100%. But we're still human beings and we still have jobs to do here in the world while we're in this one life and body that we're living. So at the end of the day, it's about being your whole human self, being in energetic integrity with who you be in the world, and being able to do your best work because of all those things being aligned.
Yeah, and I love what you said so much because as entrepreneurs, we are the ones who change the world. We are the ones that are like, why are we waiting? Why do people do this way? And we go out and incorporate change into what we bring into the world. Yet so often I do think there's aspects of what we do that a lot of people sit and wait for someone else to tell them how a piece of their business needs to be done. So I love that you shared, don't wait, go out and create it yourself.
Yeah, and I think one thing I've learned about myself as an entrepreneur, I've worked with a lot of coaches. I've made a lot of investments in different masterminds and communities and groups. And it really wasn't until this year when I got very clear on who I wanted to engage with from a coaching perspective and focus energy and efforts in one direction and kind of got rid of a lot of the extra stuff that I had. At one point I had like 6 coaches, which was great, but it was a lot and it was hard to hear myself think and what was my perspective and what do I feel. And so right now I'm very much in a period of tapping into my inner knowing and my intuition around all of this and knowing, to your point, like there are no rules. Like this is the best part about being an entrepreneur. Like you just make up any of the stuff however you want it to be and that's how it is. And that's so beautiful.
It is so beautiful, and I'm so happy we're talking about it because I think so often it's easy to fall into all the chatter and all the muss and all the shoulds, and people kind of forget that they have the choice to do whatever they want or to not do whatever they want in their business.
Yeah.
So, so important.
When you create space for stillness, then you can hear what comes up and you can go with that and you can trust.
When I think about in my own business, most of the times where I feel like I've actually set myself back a little bit or I've followed a course that in the end didn't feel really aligned, it was when I stopped listening to myself and I listened too much to other people.
Mhm.
And I think so often that's a mistake that people make because those people are really smart and they've had a lot of success, or you see something and you forget that it's great that maybe something worked for them or that they have an amazing idea, but does it work for you? How does it actually feel for you?
Yeah.
So I love that you're sharing that.
Yeah. And you know your customers and your industry best, you know?
Absolutely. So I think right in line with this, there's something that you say on your website that is that if you want to create the most healthy, thriving company, it's got to happen from the inside out. So, what does that actually look like? If we want to create that healthy, thriving business, what does that look like?
Yeah, so I think it really from my perspective it starts with you as the leader. If you're the leader of your business, if you're the CEO, if you're the founder, if you're a leader of a team, you have to do the work first. And you have to then believe that as you're doing the work and you're transforming and your energy and your being is changing, that will then influence your team through ripple effects. And it's not about telling people about all this stuff. It's about literally being different energetically. It's showing up in a different frequency and a different vibe from the inside out and letting that shine from the inside out. Also, when I started doing this work, I told my team, I committed to them, like, hey, this is what's going on in my life. I am in the beginning stages of what feels like a dark night of the soul, and I'm committing to a different way of being. But this isn't perfect. This isn't a perfect process. This is me being human, and there may be days when I show up in my best, and I'm so conscious, and there may be days where I'm like straight back on the other side of the street, not conscious. And so, are you willing to go with the ebbs and flows of this with me?
That's great. And when you think about that approach, you have to have a really strong company culture to be able to share that and to be transparent and to have people fully support that and engage. So, how do you really look at creating that culture? Or where do you see people make mistakes when it comes to creating that kind of culture?
I think it's first important to have a North Star vision. So even in the smallest of companies, even if it's one or two people or you and an offshore team or however your company is structured, I think it's important to be grounded in what is your vision and your North Star. Like, why do you do the thing that you're doing, and for what? And then I think the second thing is really defining and aligning values and really working with not only people on your team who are aligned with the values and basing all of your decision making, hiring, firing, promoting, and rewarding according to those values, but also your clients. So one of the things I think that was a hard, expensive lesson for me to learn was the last couple of years, I went against my value set when it came to landing clients and deals. We landed amazing logos, big companies that many people would know. But I always felt inside, in some cases, that they weren't right for us or for me or for the team. And despite feeling that going forward, okay, we want that logo, it's going to give us growth and opportunity and create abundance so that we can reinvest in our team and all of that. Well, turns out some of those projects didn't end well because they weren't values aligned clients. And so now as I think about reimagining the next phase of my life and business and my team and all of that, it's really important to me to be working with clients who are aligned with our values as well.
Yes, I have also learned that very expensive lesson myself, as I think many of us have.
Yeah,
Um, it can be hard to make the decision sometimes because I think we're really great at turning on our logical side of the brain and turning off sometimes that true feeling of, is this a good fit, and looking at something like values and instead looking at the financial return and what
100%.
we could do with that
Yeah.
financial return. And
Yeah, and I mean, I've said to people before, there were deals I had to walk away from that now if they came back to me, I would be a hard no. Or there were deals where I said no and then, it was a former boss I work with who kind of finagled me into feeling like I should do the work again with them or something like that. And now I'm just so much more clear on my nose and my values, and it's so much more embodied that I'm unwavering, even with the dangle of the carrot or the money or the any of that stuff.
so, for someone who's like, well, I have values, I mean, I kind of have values, but how do I hire people in alignment with values? Or how do I make sure clients are aligned with the values? What do you usually share with people?
Yeah, so I think when it comes to your values, your personal and your professional or company values can be the same. Number one, a lot of times people try and compartmentalize or break them down or overcomplicate it or say, well, personally, I believe in this. And then at work, I believe in this. Well, you can, as the owner or leader of your business, make them all one thing, make them all one set of values. Secondly, once you know what your values are, really defining the behaviors and principles that support those values will help you to then determine how you're bringing people into your company. So if you're looking to scale your team and hire, you really want to understand. So if my value is teamwork, here's 5 examples of teamwork that's important to me. You have to have no ego. You have to be co-creative and collaborative. You need to, whatever the behaviors are, and you can actually build a rubric for interviewing based on that value set. And really you should be assessing if you have 5 values, those should be covered in your interview questions. And you should be looking for people's past experience to support their alignment with that value. In some cases, if they're early career and they don't have past experience, you might ask them questions about, here's a problem you're likely to solve in this role. Help me understand how you'd walk through that, or what your perspective or thought process is, and have them unpack how they would tackle that.
Yeah, that's so good. And it really does make such a difference when you're hiring. It's not just about, can they do the job from a technical or knowledge perspective, but how are they going to fit,
Hmm.
and how are they going to support or detract from the
Hmm.
team culture and the ecosystem and everything you have in place. That's really
100%. And you
important.
really want to think about, how are they adding to your culture? How are they different? How is their different perspective going to give you and opportunities to innovate and create different things? The best part of building a team is really driving forward with diversity in mind, diversity of thought, of background, of everything. That's really what's going to help drive innovation within any of your companies or your work.
I love that. So tell us, I want to hear a little bit more about your book and why you wrote it and what it's all about.
Yeah, so my book is called Now Here: A Journey from Toxic Boss to Conscious Connector, and it is the story of, what I mentioned a little earlier about May of 2020, when I had what I felt like was my rock bottom moment in the middle of COVID, stuck at my house in New Jersey. I had previously traveled 90% of my life and work. And so I was always on the road and whining and dining and doing the whole thing and so busy. Like I loved being busy. That was my badge of honor. I wasn't a super present parent or partner. And so it was in this lockdown that I just didn't know what to do. Like I knew I was pretty miserable inside, despite externally having everything that looked amazing and like I had it all together. I knew I was crumbling. And so through this experience, I have been on this wild, quick journey of evolution and experimentation with a lot of different healing modalities, from breath work to plant medicine to meditation to all these things and everything in between. It feels very much like drinking from a fire hose of personal development in a short period of time. And so through that, I felt compelled to write a book. And I was in a mastermind last year where part of the commitment to the mastermind was that we needed to ship a creative project by the end of it. So it was a 9-month mastermind. And by the end of that period of time, we had to put out into the world something creative. And for me, initially, I'm like, maybe I'll do a group coaching program, or maybe I'll do this. And they were like, that's too easy. That's basic. No, you need to do something different. What do you really want to do? And I said, well, I started writing this book a few years ago, but I don't know, I don't feel it's ready. And that I just put my mind to it and decided to write it. And so it came out in March of this year. And it's kind of a memoir. It's kind of, a little bit of very practical, straightforward things. Like, here are things that you can do, and here's my journey and what I did. And also, I'm not done here yet. Like it's called Now Here, but like the sequel will be still not done here yet, because this is an evolution of inner work and healing, and it's layered. And I'm finding about myself right now that when I thought I've healed certain things, now I'm back in school and I'm discovering other things, deeper layers of work for me to do, or further ego deaths or title disruptions, or all of the things that, have been holding this identity I've had for myself together are being really shaken to the core right now. One of my coaches was telling me the other day, I'm in the chrysalis. I'm just really having all these parts of me die so that I can emerge to be the butterfly. And that resonated a lot, because I definitely feel like I'm in one foot in old world of what I had going on with my team and company at one point that was big, and to now stepping into, really leading from a different place and leading myself. Really, I don't have a big team anymore. So it's been this confronting experience. At the same time, it's been me leaning on everything that I talk about in my book, and leaning on faith, and leaning on trust, and leaning on going into the unknown and being open and not knowing where this is going to go. Before, I came from a place of like thinking I could control everything, having my whole life planned out. And then, I talk about, we lost our house to a hurricane a couple years ago. I talk about that, and that we're still dealing with that. We just now got an offer on this house 2 years plus later. And so that chapter hasn't even been closed yet. And so, yeah, I mean, that's the book in a nutshell, and it's just pretty practical, easy read.
Yeah, I resonate with so much of what you shared. I did not lose my house to a hurricane. I cannot imagine that. That must have been quite something to live through and just even continue to deal with. But so much of that, just going inside and doing a lot of that inner work and kind of shifting so much, I resonate with. So I cannot wait to read the book myself. Where can everyone find the book if they would like to read it as well?
Yeah, so it's on Amazon, and you can find it on mainly online bookstores, Barnes and Noble, places like that, all online. Mhm.
Great. So tell us a little bit more about what's coming up for you, what you're most excited about, and where people can learn more about you.
Yeah, amazing. So, right now I'm in the capacity of being a student. So I'm back in graduate school. My degree is going to be in consciousness and action. And I'm hoping to then complete a PhD in regenerative leadership and visionary studies. It's been an amazing program so far at Southwestern College. I'm also really excited about being an advisor for a company called Source. They are a heart rate variability app that is not a wearable, but it's really helpful just to understand the biometric of HRV and how you can leverage that to tap into your energetic integrity and how you like navigate and manage your day and productivity. So that's super exciting. I'm doing coaching and mentorship work, so working with CEOs and often internal heads of HR or heads of culture, bringing conscious leadership into companies, starting with their executive teams, and that's been very energizing for me. Um, and yeah, those are the things that I'm really focused on in the short term.
That sounds amazing. And where can people learn more about you if they want to connect with you online?
Yeah, amazing. You can go to my website, domfarnan.com, FARNAN.com. I'm on LinkedIn as well, and I'm also on Instagram at I am Dom Farnan.
Fantastic. And of course, all those links will be down below in the show notes. So be sure to click through and connect with Dom. But now I want to ask you the one question that I ask everybody, and I can't wait to hear what you have to say. And that is, how do you keep things lean and work smarter, not harder in your business?
Yeah, I think keep it simple. Don't reinvent the wheel. Number one, I learned that the hard way because I tried to reinvent a lot of stuff for a long time, and keep it simple. You don't have to do all of the things. Just figure out the one thing and do that one thing really well, whatever it is. That's been really helpful for me, even as I step into this new idea and work that I want to bring into the world. I find some of my old conditioned tendencies creeping back in of perfectionism and things that, help me procrastinate so that the work doesn't get done and all of that. And so I think just keep it simple and focus on the one thing.
Yeah, I love that and align with that very much. Now, any final tips for everyone listening if they really want to create a culture of conscious leadership within their business and if they themselves want to make sure that they are a conscious leader?
Yeah, I would say be mindful of yourself. Give yourself grace, but be mindful of you. Don't focus on everybody else and all the things. Like this journey is not about everyone else, it's about you, and really looking in the mirror and being able to recognize that, and ultimately being the leader that you love when you see that reflection in the mirror. Like, one question I'll leave you with is like, when you look at yourself in the mirror as a leader, how do you feel? How do you feel about yourself? And sit with that, because if it's like, I don't feel that great, well, then there's some work for you. But if you actually feel amazing and you're getting that feedback from people who you work with, your clients, your team, whatever, but really just, focus on you and trust that your process will then create the ripple effects as intended for those that resonate. It's not going to be for everybody. Not everyone chooses this. It would be great if they wanted to, but you have to, trust in their process and timeline and then believe in yours.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for being here. So much value in this episode. I hope all of you listening enjoyed this interview as much as I did. Dom, would love to have you back again, hear how things are evolving for you. Thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you so much.
I will see you again next week. Thanks so much for tuning in to this week's episode. If you have not yet taken our scalability assessment, I invite you to head to leanoutmethod.com/assessment and take our interactive assessment that's going to help you look at how simple, how sustainable, and how scalable your business currently is. It includes personalized recommendations of where to focus next to get your time back, to increase your impact, increase your profits, and ultimately step into your rich, fulfilled life. And finally, we'd love to see you inside our signature program, Simplify to Scale. You can head to leanoutmethod.com/ops to find all of the details on how we can help you uplevel your operations and get out of the day-to-day of your business.